Hi, today I will also start with 3 interesting facts that might or might not be true, and at the end I will reveal the detail. First one, in certain placebo studies there were patients who had fake surgeries, where the doctors only made incisions and then stitched the skin back, but they didn't actually perform any surgery. And these patients were reporting as good recoveries and relief from symptoms they previously had as people who actually had surgeries. Second one, there is a story of a man who was told that he was poisoned when he actually wasn't poisoned, and he died regardless. And a third one, 80% of people who are reporting back pain have no structural damage or problems, and 80% of people who have structural damage or slipped disc or similar actual problem are reporting no pain. And one for a bonus, athletes, even professional athletes, can slow down or decrease their performance when they think they are not doing well. Even objectively, there is no reason to slow down. Now, let's go to the main part. You know that feeling when something goes different way than you expected, that weird knot in the stomach? On a macro life level, when we put effort into something, we are expecting certain results. That's pretty normal, that's pretty logical. But what if those results are simply not coming? Did we do something wrong? Or is there some magic switch that will suddenly make all that effort to actually show up and work for us, where all the pieces will actually fall into the right place? For some people, it can be as trivial as not being able to use their favorite chair in the office or their favorite pull-up bar in the gym. And that is already triggering emotional reaction. My name is Paolo, and in this video I will explain you what is the reason and what is the relationship behind our failed expectations and actual results. I will start with a short story that I got from my brother. Imagine you have 10 apple trees and each apple tree has 10 apples on it. For you to pick up all the apples, you need to move the ladder, go up, pick up the apple and come down. And then move the ladder again and over until you have all 100 apples. Imagine that after doing this for 65, 70 times, you just move the ladder, pick up the apple, come down, sit under the tree and you say, I only have 70 apples, but I think I deserve 100. I did a lot of work, I did a lot of climbing, I did a lot of moving of the ladder, and I still think I deserve 100 apples. When we put it like this, it sounds very strange and stupid. However, there's a lot of people who are thinking this way. And that's because there is a big gap between expectations and reality, between prediction and observation. The gap between what we expect to happen and what actually happened. And our brain really hates this gap for a very simple reason, and that is survival. Our brain is in its nature predictive and it hates to be wrong. Sometimes the prediction is for our brain way more important and stronger than the actual observation from the reality. That's how placebo works. Brain is always trying to predict what is coming, because if it can evaluate this correctly, it means it's safe. Any miscalculation means danger. If you think, what a nice cat, I want to pet it, and it's a tiger that will bite your hand or arm off, that's a pretty big gap between the expectation or prediction and the actual reality. However, this also works on a microcellular level, not only on the level of our conscious mind. It actually works mostly on the level we are not aware of. Just smelling food is automatically triggering processes that leads to digestion. Just having sweet taste in your mouth is already triggering something that's called cephalic phase insulin response, which means that the insulin is released even before the glucose enters our bloodstream. That's why, for example, artificial sweeteners are not the best option. because we are getting this response from the sweet taste anyway, because body is predictive. Just thinking about cold is releasing adrenaline and increasing our heart rate. Long story short, body is predictive all the time. And very important note, this also happens if the result in reality, the observed reality, is better than what we expected. It doesn't matter whether it's worse or better. If the prediction and the actual reality are not matching, this so-called somatic error will happen. And when this error happens, there is usually hormonal and emotional reaction that on a conscious level we usually don't like. And because that emotion is basically just a signal, body talking to us that something is not right, we automatically want to change that emotion. And there is a 3-step process to get there. We can change the prediction. That means changing our view, changing how we expect the stuff to happen, and that is an internal change. Or if we can, we try to change the reality if it's in our power, so we will try to make an external change. So either by expecting different result or changing the outside circumstances, ultimately we are getting the desired result, and that is changing how we feel about it. By closing that gap between prediction and reality, we are changing the emotional outcome. The problem is that as smart as we are, we found a way how we can skip this process and we only do the last step, and that is changing how we feel. People figured out how to get that change in the emotional state without pretty much any effort. And that is by caffeine, alcohol, drugs, and probably the most common and the most used one, sugar. On the long run, that creates a problem because we didn't actually deal with anything. We just skipped and jumped to the conclusion. We didn't have the lesson. We didn't have to do any action, and we didn't learn anything by that experience. So it's very likely that it will occur again, and then we use another dose of quick, cheap dopamine release just to mask this error. Why am I even talking about this? Firstly, it's for awareness, to know the strength behind this behavior. Predictions are what body will always base its reaction on. And when the mismatch with reality is too big, it needs to do something about it. It needs to find a way how to deal with it. And that is through the cravings, where it will repeatedly urge us to do the fixing behavior. Our cravings for certain food or stuff has way deeper roots than we normally think of. It is practically just an escape mechanism that is not helping anything. It is a stagnation in the process because we are looping in the same way, problem fixed by cravings, and repeat. And the actual solution is not that complicated. We cannot stop or avoid this fully and completely. The errors will occur. However, we can choose to react differently, and we can build tolerance towards them. In its core, it's very simple. In nature, it's not the fittest, it's not the fastest, it's not the strongest who survives. If that's true, humans wouldn't be around. It is the ones who have the highest ability to adapt who thrives. If we put ourselves into a scenario where we need to learn how to adapt quickly, that's the way. We need to seek unexpected discomfort and learn how to deal with it in controlled environment. For example, military personnel or first responders. There is a clear reason behind why they are so stoically calm in high pressure situations. It's not because they have their emotions switched off or that they are fearless. They practiced and built tolerance for the ability to deal with unpredictability. And we should practice that as well. On one side, we need to seek situations where we are in a discomfort that is out of our control. On the other side, we also in our daily life can look for these opportunities as they occur naturally and use whatever we encounter to build this skill and ability. We should not aim, or the point is not to feel better when this error occurs. We should aim to do action that can change the situation, not react, but respond. And that itself will close the gap and create the emotional response we want. That is true control through flow, fight, flight, and freeze mental states. Being able to get ourselves under control through breathing, as that is our tool that is always there and always available. I did a full episode on how to do this through the breathing, and I'll put the link down in description. This is the most important benefit we can actually get from training. Athletes and people who train regularly are maybe not consciously, but really aware of this. Training and doing hard stuff in the gym is making your life outside of the gym easier. We need to realize what things actually are under our control and only focus on those. This is what Stoicism is based on. You cannot really control the outcome. You can only control your response to situation and your effort. And that is where all your focus should be. You are not going to change the other circumstances anyway. Put your focus on what you can control and don't waste your energy where it's useless. Regarding our own results, well, we just need to be very honest with ourselves. If we have expectations and they are not matching reality, the answer is very simple. There needs to be some action done. And crying that you don't have 100 apples when you only picked up 70, and metaphorically sitting under a tree and eating chocolate, smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee because that will make us feel better, well, that's not going to give us the apples. That's just going to be a temporary fix that will lead to a loop of bad habits. Or we can just lower our expectations. That's everybody's choice. That's always an option. So next time when something is not going your way, just stop and think, what can you realistically change? And then do it. Thank you for watching. My name is Paolo. Send this video to 2 people. First one, somebody who has really high expectation on you and you're definitely not going to match their reality. And second, somebody who you have high expectations from and you wish that they will match your reality. Now, regarding the 3 facts, the first one is 100% true. There was a study done where there were done incisions to people who were scheduled for an actual surgery and they didn't perform the surgery and people were still reporting superb healing as well and as good and as significant results as with people who actually did the surgeries. The prediction won and body just reported whatever brain was expecting. On the other extreme, the second story is also true. There is multiple reported cases in history where people were told that they were poisoned, and the physiological explanation of that is fairly simple. They had a very strong sympathetic reaction because of the fear and anxiety, and the reaction was either very strong and intense or it was lasting long enough to do a permanent damage, increased heart rate, and eventually it led to cardiovascular failure because body just wasn't able to cope with it. The third one is also true. 80% of people who have back pain have no actual measurable damage, and 80% of people who on the screenings are showing arguably strong damage have no back pain. This is a strong proof that there is very poor correlation between actual problem in the body and the pain people are experiencing. And the last one you have probably already guessed, it's also true. Athletic performance starts in the head and is really belief dependent. If people start believing that their performance is not good enough, they slow down without any objective reason. Their energy stores are fine, their muscle damage is not there yet, however, they still report fatigue as if they are, just because they feel they are not doing well enough. This flight state or even freeze state as a neurological regulation will shut down everything else just based on thought or belief or a feeling. Or many times based on the fact that they thought it will feel very different than it actually is feeling. So there is a somatic error, there is a gap, and this gap is making them decrease the performance just based on what they were expecting. It really is all about what we carry in our heads. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, suggestions, or comments, please reach out directly to me or comment here under the video. See you next time.